Oh, he's muted.
Purida Jana. May we be protected, may we be nourished. May we study with energy and vigor. May our study be enlightening and not give rise to hostility. Om peace, peace, peace. Lead us to truth and not to untruth. Lead us to enlightenment and not ignorance. Lead us to immortality and not death. Let the self-manifest Atman grow in me. Om peace, peace, peace. Your nectar-like words and inspiring, warm life stories, eulogized by learned sages, are indeed eradicator of shoots of ignorance. These are auspicious to hear, and it is propitious to inculcate in one's own life. Those who take these words to the world are indeed great benefactor of the world. So we are studying Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play. And in this play, his direct disciples are main characters, and especially among them, Narendranath was very special. Narendranath represents us, as we all have various problems. We have many questions. We have many situations, contradictions, afflictions, doubt. And we want to search solution for this. But the problem is we search solution in the objective world. But until or unless we understand the subject who perceives this world, who experiences this world, until or unless we understand the subject, we cannot solve these intricate problems of life. Therefore, Narendra represents us. Narendra also faced all these things. And then he wanted to search the truth. And he arrives at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna. And right from the beginning, Sri Ramakrishna recognized him as a great soul. And he never hesitated to tell that even in public, which embarrassed Narendranath. And he objected and also even scolded Sri Ramakrishna. But then he would weep and say, what can I do? Mother shows me this. I don't tell out of my whims. It is mother who compels me to tell. Therefore, we find a wonderful relationship with one another, Guru and Shishya. And this is a great teaching. So as we study their lives, we find some similarities with us. So with this introduction, we'll go to the text, and I'll request Paul to read.
All right.
14, page 790.
Yep. 14. Knowing him to be a great soul, the the master publicly praises Narendra. So, from their first meeting, the master praised Narendra extravagantly to one and all. Although he knew that praise inflates a weak man's ego and ruins his life, the master made an exception regarding Narendra because he was convinced that Narendra's mind dwelt high above that kind of weakness. The reader will understand this if we cite a few examples here. 15. The master mentions Narendra's innate powers. One day, Keshab Chandra Sen, Vijay Krishna Goswami, and other celebrated Brahmo leaders were seated with the master. Young Narendra was also present. In an exalted mood, the master looked on Keshab and Vijay with a kind gaze. Then his eyes fell on Narendra, and a bright picture of the young man's future life suddenly appeared in his mind. The master compared the advanced lives of Keshab and others with what he had seen of Narendra's future, keeping his affectionate gaze on Narendra. When Keshab and Vijay had left after the meeting, the master said, Keshab possesses one power which has made him world famous, but Narendra is endowed with 18 such powers. I have seen the divine light in Keshab and Vijay burning like a candle flame, but in Narendra, it shines with the radiance of the sun, dispelling the last vestiges of ignorance and delusion. If a weak man, devoid of insight, had received such praise from the master, he would have been overwhelmed and filled with pride. But Narendra was different. His wonderfully intuitive mind dived within and began to impartially compare the innumerable good qualities of Keshab and of Vijay with his own mental condition at that time. Considering himself to be unworthy of such praise, he vehemently protested, saying to the master, Sir, why do you say such things? People will think you're mad if you talk like that. Keshab is famous all over the world. Vijay is a saint. I'm an insignificant schoolboy. How can you speak of us in the same breath? Please, I beg of you, never say such things again. Pleased, the master responded, But what can I do about it, my child? You don't suppose I'd say such things of my own accord. It was Mother who showed me the truth about you, and so I had to tell it. Mother has never lied to me.
So, Guru is as great as the Shishya, disciple. So, disciple also upholds some certain values. And here he thought that Sri Ramakrishna was going beyond the limit of, limit of that equanimity, or crossing the limit, and he was praising Narendranath. But Sri Ramakrishna, on the other hand, he also followed truth. And he did not say because he wanted, but because the truth was revealed to him, and he could not help but to express that. So here we find both are established in truth. One realizes directly, another yet to realize that truth. And later we find what Sri Ramakrishna said is right. That time nobody can even imagined. But we find Sri Ramakrishna, because of his deep contemplation and sight and his truthfulness, it was revealed to him. Therefore, he never hesitated to tell that. Yeah, we'll go ahead.
So the first Sanskrit saying, what did you say? Ascharya Bhakta.
Kushalasya labdha. Okay, let's go ahead.
16. Narendra's protest. The master could not always convince Narendra by saying that the Divine Mother had revealed something to him or had made him speak. The outspoken and fearless Narendra sometimes doubted the truth of the master's visions and said, "How do you know it was Mother who told you? All this may be your imagination. If I were in your position, I would consider such visions to be mere fancies. Western science and philosophy have proven that our senses often deceive us and that the chances of deception are much greater if our minds hold a constant desire to see a particular thing. You are fond of me and always want to see me become great. This may be why you have such visions."
What happens? This happens in our families. We want to see our children in a greater light. So we praise them. But here it is not like that. It's not out of affection. Therefore, there is no possibility of seeing Narendra out of proportion. Rather, Sri Ramakrishna was truthful, and later that was proven. Sri Ramakrishna could see the future. Everything was revealed to him. Therefore, he never hesitated to tell that. Many times Narendra said, "It is your hallucination. It's your misunderstanding, or it is not understanding what really things are." All these are baseless. But we find that he never hesitated to tell that, because that time that was truth to him. Yes, go ahead.
17. Overwhelmed by Narendra's arguments, the master questions the Divine Mother. In this manner, Narendra would talk to the master, trying to explain with various apt illustrations how physical science had investigated and verified such visions, which are subjective, and had proven them to be erroneous. When the master's mind dwelt in a high spiritual plane, he considered Narendra's guileless explanations to be a sign of his love for truth, which made him still more pleased with Narendra. But when he was in the normal plane, Narendra's sharp argumentation would overwhelm the master's childlike and simple mind, sometimes upsetting him. He would think, "Well, Narendra is completely devoted to truth. He isn't one to tell a lie. Also, the scriptures say that no falsehood appears in the mind of a truthful person like him. Could there be any possibility of error in my visions?" Again, he thought, "I've tested my visions in various ways and have found that the Divine Mother has never revealed anything false to me. I've also received repeated assurances from her. So why does the honest Narendra say that my visions are caused by my imagination? Why doesn't he believe them to be true as I describe them?" Worried, the master at last asked the Divine Mother for an answer. He was reassured when he heard her voice say, "Why do you listen to Narendra? He will accept the truth before long." The reader will understand what we have said if we describe an incident that illustrates the subject.
Go ahead.
18. An example. The master goes to Sadharan Brahmo Samaj to see Narendra. At this time, the Brahmos had split into two groups because of the controversial marriage between the Maharaja of Kuch Bihar and Keshav's daughter. The Sadharan Brahmo Samaj had been formed a few years before the event we describe here. Although Narendra visited Keshav from time to time, he also went regularly to the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj and would sing devotional songs at their Sunday prayer meetings. Around this time, Narendra had not been able to visit the master at Dakshineshwar for a couple of weeks. Every day, the master waited for him to come. Disappointed, At last, he decided to go to Calcutta and see Narendra. It was a Sunday. The master worried that Narendra might go somewhere to visit friends and he might miss seeing Narendra even if he went to Calcutta.
So here we find, just a minute. Here we find the love that Sri Ramakrishna had for Narendranath, because he was to play a great part in future. Therefore, he wanted to make him that way. That is why the love we find for Narendranath. And he never hesitated for that. And it is through love that we are bound. It is love that in love we grow. And this Narendra later realized, and he said, Sri Ramakrishna is nothing else but Love personified. And he also composed a poem that you have made me slave of your love. So here, though it is the word slave, but it is not slave. In love, we are unified. In love, we realize what is truth. So this great relationship we can find between the master and Narendranath. Yes, go ahead.
The master finally concluded that Narendra would certainly sing at the evening service of the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, so he could see him there. He then worried that if he went there uninvited, the Brahmo devotees might be displeased. But the next moment he reasoned to himself, well, I visited Keshav's Brahmo Samaj a few times without any invitation, and they were invariably pleased to see me. Moreover, Vijay, Shivanath, and other leaders of the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj have visited Dakshineshwar many times. While trying to decide what to do, however, the simple master forgot an important fact. It did not occur to him even for a moment that Shivanath and other Brahmos of the Sadharan Samaj had gradually stopped visiting him when they observed that Keshav and Vijay had changed their religious views under the influence of the master. This oversight is quite understandable. Throughout his life, the master had realized the truth that as human beings ascended to higher spiritual planes, driven by an intense longing for God, thus receiving his grace, their religious views evolved accordingly. How could the master understand that the Sadharan Brahmos, who were lovers of truth and ardent fighters for its cause, had now taken a new course and set limits on their spiritual realizations?
So one thing we find here, that for a seer or for the son of light, there is no darkness. So he would not see all this dark side of the world. So all these practical wisdom, what we might say, that he should not have visited there, that did not dawn onto him. Rather, it is a worldly cleverness in place of wisdom that we must understand. So Sri Ramakrishna was a simple person. And according to him, why should one fight for a simple reason for this? He could not understand that. So anyway, so Sri Ramakrishna, without thinking that difference, he visited Brahmo Samaj. Yes, go ahead.
19. The result of his visit. It was evening. Hundreds of Brahmo devotees were ardently repeating the mantra, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Brahman is truth, knowledge, and infinity, directing their heartfelt devotion to God. Prayer and meditation came to an end. and the preacher began to speak to the congregation from the pulpit on the love of and longing for God. At that moment, the master entered the Brahmo temple in a semi-conscious state and moved forward towards the pulpit. Many in the audience had seen him before, so it did not take long for news of the master's sudden arrival to spread throughout the congregation. Those who had not seen him before stood up, some even standing on the benches to get a better look at him. The noise and disorder in the congregation forced the preacher to interrupt his sermon. Narendra was seated in the choir area. When he realized that the master was there, he immediately rushed to him. But the preacher and other prominent Brahmos did not come forward to receive the master. They neglected to show him even common courtesy because they considered him to be responsible for creating dissension among certain Brahmos, such as Vijay and others.
So here we find the other side of it. Yeah, it will be clear as we go forward. Yes.
20. The gas lights are turned off in an effort to disperse the crowd. Without glancing to the left or to the right, the master advanced towards the pulpit where he went into samadhi. The congregation, excited to see the master in that state, made more of a commotion than before. The ushers, finding that they could not restore order, turned out all the gas lights to force people to leave the building. This caused even more confusion among the crowd as people tried to leave the dark hall. 21. Narendra manages to get the master out of the building and escorts him to Dakshineshwar. Narendra was terribly hurt when he saw that no one in the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj received the master. Now he was deeply concerned about getting the master out of the darkened temple. As soon as the master's samadhi came to an end, Narendra found a way to lead him out through a back door. He got him into a carriage and rode with him to Dakshineshwar. Narendra later said, "It's impossible to describe the pain I felt that night when I saw the master being humiliated like that, and all on my account. How I scolded him for what he'd done, but he didn't care one bit about my scolding or his humiliation."
Yeah, so for a knower of self, there is no insult or there is no humiliation. So whatever happens, he takes it as it is. And on the other hand, we find Brahmos, how they reacted, that is not appropriate. So we can understand. And later what happened? Gradually that force, that organization dispersed. And now hardly there is a Brahmo Samaj there. Even they donated one of their property in Shimla to Ramakrishna mission. So in the beginning they were against us, but now gradually they understood the importance of Sri Ramakrishna. Yes, go ahead.
22. Narendra scolds the master for his love for him. The master is consoled after hearing the words of the Divine Mother. I know that the master gave no thought to himself because of his love for me, so I didn't hesitate to use harsh words with him on occasion. I said, "It's written in the Puranas that King Bharata thought so much of his favorite deer that he himself became a deer in his next life. If that's true, you should beware of thinking too much about me." The master was as simple as a young boy. He took what I said literally and replied in great distress, "You're right. So what is going to happen to me since I can't bear not seeing you?"
So
Then
here the pathos is not like that. He worried about it. And what will happen to me? because I'm thinking of you. So that doubt was instilled in Sri Ramakrishna. Yes, then.
Then he anxiously went off to consult the Divine Mother. After a while, he came back beaming with delight and exclaimed, "Leave me in peace, you rascal. I'll never listen to anything you tell me again. Mother said to me, you love him so much because you regard him as Narayana, Vishnu himself. If the day ever comes when you don't see Narayana in him, then you won't spare him a single glance." With this short but emphatic statement, he dismissed once and for all everything I'd ever said to him on that subject.
Yeah, so this relationship very difficult to understand. And Sri Ramakrishna was like his child. Whatever you say, child is influenced by that. So it is Sri Ramakrishna was a divine child. So because Narendra is a Shuddha Sattvic Bhagavati Tanu, when Narendra says something, he would give the importance of it, weightage on that statement. So therefore he was worried, what will happen to me? Yes, you are right. What will happen to me? If I'm thinking about you, will I become Naren in my next incarnation? So that worried him. So he went to mother, and mother said, no, don't worry. He's a mere child. What does he understand? So that assured him. And mother also explained that Sri Ramakrishna saw in him Narayana. That is why he loved him so much. So it is not infatuation that we experience with worldly people or worldly relationship, but it is a divine expression of love for two souls, for each other. Even when Narendranath is scolded with love. It's not that he's scolded like a village person. And that means not cultured, but because he loved and he could not stand the insult that was given to him. That's why he objected. Yeah. So this is a wonderful relationship that we see in these two, Guru and Shishya. Yes. Next.
Chapter 6, Section 2. The Master and Narendra's Divine Relationship. 1. The Master's remarks about Narendra's greatness. From the outset, the Master's keen insight observed that Narendra's pure mind and heart were always motivated by high ideals. So the Master's everyday behavior with Narendra was different from his treatment of other disciples. The Master himself observed strict rules regarding food, sleep, japa, meditation, and so on, and always encouraged his devotees to cultivate devotion by following his example. However, he did not hesitate to say again and again in front of all that Narendra would come to no harm if he disregarded those rules. The Master said, Narendra is Nitya Siddha, eternally perfect. Narendra is Dhyana Siddha, perfect in meditation. The fire of knowledge that burns all impurities caused by food is always ablaze in Narendra. That's why his mind will never be distracted or polluted, no matter where or what he eats. Narendra is constantly cutting the bonds of Maya into pieces with the sword of knowledge, so Mahamaya is incapable of bringing him under her control. We were overwhelmed when we heard the Master make so many wonderful remarks about Narendra every day.
So when Narendranath, later Swami Vivekananda, visited the United States of America and Western world, it was difficult to have food that is commonly taken in India. And for this, he had to face some conservative people, that he has become a bleach outcast. So this way, Narendranath and later Swami Vivekananda was outcasted, as it were, and he was not allowed to enter the temple of Bhavatarini Kali, Mother Kali, though he was so exalted a person, and it was certified by Sri Ramakrishna that nothing can influence Narendranath, even food or the way he behaves. So in Western world, it was not possible for him to lead a conservative life. So right from the beginning, that certificate was given by Sri Ramakrishna, but people cannot understand this. That's why he had to face the wrath of people. Even when he was received by people, many people did not attend his meeting, saying that he is not a sannyasin. Even the person who was the chairman, he said, I will address as Brother Vivekananda, not Swami Vivekananda. So all this happened later, but we find Sri Ramakrishna was Satya Drashta. He saw the truth and he certified that nothing can influence Narendranath. So what of food? Even Mahamaya could not bind him. So to say, Girish Chandra Ghosh is to tell that Mahamaya could not bind two people. One is Narendranath because he is so big, and the net of Mahamaya is small. And on the other hand, Nag Mahashaya was the second person whom Mahamaya could not bind. Why? Because he was so small, so humble, that the net of Mahamaya would not be able to catch him, because he was so small, he would go through the mesh. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, go ahead.
2. Food brought by the Marwari devotees is given to Narendra. When the Marwari devotees visited the master, they presented him with nuts, pistachios, raisins, rock candy, and various sweets. But the master would not eat any of these things, nor would he give them to the devotees around him. He said, "They don't know how to make gifts without wanting something in return. If they give one roll of betel to a holy man, they attach to it prayers for the fulfillment of 16 desires. If one eats food from such a materialistic person, one loses devotion." So there was the question of what should be done with their gifts. The master said, "Take those things to Narendra. If he eats them, no harm will befall him."
So like this, that's why everything is Brahman. So like we consider this Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavehi, Brahmagno, Brahmana Hotam. So Brahmarpanam, whatever ladle or the instrument by which the offering is being made is Brahman. Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavi, and whatever is offered, that is also Brahman. Brahmahavi, Brahmagno, and it is being offered to Brahman. And the person who is offering that is also Brahman. And the karma by which it is being offered, that is also Brahman. So this knowledge of Brahman, it's not only in the shloka, but Narendranath used to experience that. That is why no harm could be inflicted on him. And that is why Sri Ramakrishna would give those things to Narendranath to eat, because those desires could not influence Narendranath. He burnt everything like a blazing fire burns even trees. Similarly, he had that blazing power of knowledge. Yeah. Next, go ahead.
3. Narendra's devotion is not affected by eating forbidden food. One day, Narendra ate his meal in a hotel. He then went to the master and said, "Sir, I've been in a hotel and have eaten food that others consider to be forbidden." The master knew that Narendra was not speaking in a spirit of bravado, but was warning him so that he would not touch Narendra or allow him to use the utensils in his room if he had any reservations. The master promptly replied, "It won't do you any harm. If a man keeps his mind on God, eating pork and beef is equivalent to eating the purest havishyana
Avishana means, rice with ghee. Yeah.
made of boiled vegetables, rice, and ghee. Likewise, if a man is engrossed in worldly desires, eating spinach and vegetables is by no means better than eating pork and beef. I don't mind at all that you've eaten some forbidden food, but if any one of them, pointing to others, came and told me that, I couldn't touch him."
So, we'll go ahead.
4. The master's unselfish love helps Narendra's spiritual progress, and the latter surrenders to him. It is almost impossible to describe to the reader the extent of the love, praise, and freedom in every respect that the master gave to Narendra from the beginning. If one examines the lives of the great teachers, it is doubtful that one will find any situation in which they treated their great disciples with as much respect for their inherent power. The master could find no rest until he had divulged all of his innermost thoughts to Narendra. He consulted Narendra's opinion in every matter, and to evaluate his visitor's intelligence and intensity of faith, he would ask Narendra to engage them in debate. The master never asked Narendra to accept anything as true without having fully tested it. This way of dealing with Narendra enhanced his self-confidence, self-effort, passion for truth, love, and faith 100-fold within a short time. The master's infinite trust and love created an invincible wall around Narendra that protected him from all types of temptation and mean conduct at all times and in all situations, without his knowledge, allowing him to safely enjoy his beloved freedom.
Yeah, see, once it happened that Narendranath was at Dakshineshwar, and Sri Ramakrishna was puffing like a hookah. So after puffing, then he said, "Okay, Naren, now you puff." So Guru is asking his disciple to do this, and but he was trying to get separated from him. Then Sri Ramakrishna told, "Why you are having this sense of differentiation? This and that, both are one." So this we find that how through love, how he unified with Narendranath, and thus he helped him to grow. Yes, go ahead.
Within a year of their first meeting, Narendra had dedicated himself to the master forever. Did he understand that at the time how the master's selfless love was slowly carrying him forward towards the goal of his life? Perhaps not. It seems that his heart was constantly full, satisfied with a pure bliss that he had never felt before, a bliss that had its origin in the master's heavenly love. At this point, he had not yet come in contact with the selfish and cruel world, so he had nothing to compare this to, and thus did not understand that such love was extremely rare, indeed coveted even by the gods. It will not be out of place to cite a few examples to make this clear to the reader.
Yeah, like when he was at Gazipur, he wanted to have initiation from Pavahari Baba, a famous a saint, lived near Varanasi, about maybe 100 kilometers, maybe 50, 60 miles away from Varanasi. He wanted to have initiation from him. But every night Sri Ramakrishna would appear before him and said nothing, only with a glance, a look, and that full of love, full of pathos. And later, Narendranath, later Swami Vivekananda, then he said, he wrote a poem, Gai Geet Shunat Tumai. So I sing your praise just to please you. So what we find that time he did not understand even that love, though he could understand the purity of the life of Master, but not the love that Sri Ramakrishna bestowed on him. Because later we find how to progress, how to fulfill the command that he received from Sri Ramakrishna was not clear to him. And once it happened at Hathras, he was pacing up and down with great worry. So his disciple asked him, Sir, what is disturbing you? Please let me know if I could do something. He said, no, you cannot do anything. This India, such a big country, and the Master has given me this responsibility to uplift it, and I do not know how to do it. It is natural that when we are in that situation, we may not know. Even when he came here, he would not know how to go about it. But everything happened in course of time, as if it was pre-planned. And lots of oppositions also were there. And those oppositions paved the way for future interactions and also progress of Vedanta in the West. And it is natural that it is not understood by many. People are engrossed in their bread and butter and day-to-day living. They have hardly any awareness for higher living, higher thoughts. So it is not unnatural. Rather, this is the natural way. And only few people can understand this. So the lofty ideals that presented by Swami Vivekananda later will be appreciated gradually. Even the time has not come yet. And that was reposed, that was the responsibility was given to Narendranath by his guru. And that is why,
Can we discuss the Pavadi Baba story in detail? I actually remember it very well. It's a beautiful story.
No, it's like this flow. Let us go the flow. Okay. So,
Five.
yes, go ahead.
5.
See, like we have to concentrate on his life, not Pavadi Baba's life. Okay. We give that little hint that this happened. Okay, go ahead, please.
5. The Master arranges a debate between M and Narendra. M, the recorder of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, met the Master in Dakshineshwar in February 1882, a few months after Narendra's arrival. In that book, M records how he had the opportunity of visiting the master for a few days consecutively while staying at Varanagore, and how a few of the master's enlightening and ironic remarks removed his pride in learning and made him a humble disciple forever. Narendra told us, during that period, I spent a night with the master at Dakshineshwar. I'd been seated
So
quietly.
just a minute.
Sure.
This incident is in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. One can read it, how Sri Ramakrishna crushed the ego of M, because he thought that he was a Pandit and he's learned, and his wife was not, only ignorant lady. And not only that, he wanted to give discourses. So Sri Ramakrishna criticized him that you Calcutta people are like this, always lecturing others. So anyway, these are only some few points, but one can go in details in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Yeah, go ahead.
Narendra told us, during that period, I spent a night with the master at Dakshineshwar. I'd been seated quietly in the Panchavati for a while when the master suddenly appeared. He took my hand and said smilingly, your learning and intelligence will be tested today. You have only 2.5 degrees. Today, a school teacher, M. Mahendranath Gupta, who possesses 3.5 degrees, is here. Come, I want to hear you talk to him. Like it or not, I had to go with the master. Reaching his room, I was introduced to M, and we began to discuss various topics. In that manner, the master got us involved in conversation, then remained quietly seated. He continued listening to what we said and observing us. When M left, the master said, he might have more degrees, but he's effete. He's too shy. He's not a spirited conversationalist. In this way, the master enjoyed himself by engaging me in debate with others.
So it is not to demean M. M was a great person, a great man. And we find how he converted himself as an institution, though a single person institution. Like say Swami Vivekananda established Ramakrishna mission. But what M did, by writing a book on Sri Ramakrishna, he served the nectar to the whole world. And many people are influenced and enriched by this wonderful repertory, where Sri Ramakrishna is presenting truth without getting influenced by the words of M. M is totally silent there. And not only that, in his personal life also, he lived a wonderful life. He inspired others. He would provide the teachings, or he would impart the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, and would tell devotees that I have few pitchers of nectar collected from Sri Ramakrishna, and whosoever comes to me, I give a little of that. So he was totally immersed in the thought of Sri Ramakrishna. And not only that, he served Mother, Sri Sharda Devi, also in his humble way. He used to donate to many ailing sadhus, monks. So a great man. But what is highlighted here, that he was a bit shy, whereas Narendranath was like open-souled. So he was a brave person. So we find that appreciation from none other but Sri Ramakrishna. Yes. Next.
6. Kedarnath Chattopadhyay, a devotee. Kedarnath Chattopadhyay was one of the master's householder devotees. We think that he started visiting the master sometime before Narendra came to Dakshineshwar. He worked at Dhaka in Bangladesh, so he could visit the master only during Durga Puja and on other holidays. Kedar was a spiritual aspirant who practiced sadhana according to the spiritual attitude of the Vaishnava Tantra, and tears trickled from his eyes when he listened to devotional songs and kirtan. For those reasons, the master praised him before others. Many people of Dhaka saw Kedar's love of God and treated him with love and respect accordingly. Again, many patterned their spiritual lives on his instructions. It is said that when a large number of people began to come to the master, he grew tired of talking about God to all of them. Once, while in ecstasy, he prayed to the Divine Mother, "Mother, I cannot talk so much anymore. Give a little power to Kedar, Ram, Girish, and Vijay so that people can go to them first, learn a little, and finally come here to me to have their spirituality awakened with a word or two." But this he said much later.
Yes. So here the full name of Kedarnath Chattopadhyay, and he used to see Sri Ramakrishna there. So when this was being discussed in presence of Narendranath, that I have seen you, Kedarnath was telling to Sri Ramakrishna, that I have seen you Dhaka in this form. And Narendranath said, how can I deny that? Because I have also seen in my apartment, even in the night. So another thing that we have to understand, Sri Ramakrishna would engage Narendranath with others so that if they assessed Narendranath positively, then he would have that he has some mettle. He would certify that. Because he could understand about the power of Narendranath, therefore he would appreciate that person also. So Kedarnath and Ramchandra Datta, Girish Chandra Ghosh, and Vijay Krishna Goswami, these were other devotees who were given some power by Sri Ramakrishna. And they used to talk about God to the devotees. Yes. Go ahead.
It's time.
7. Kedar's power of reasoning in his first meeting with Narendra. Kedar once took an extended leave from his work so he could go to Calcutta and have the opportunity to visit the master from time to time. The master was delighted to discuss spiritual matters with this wonderful aspirant, and he introduced the other devotees to him. One day during that time, Narendra came to see the master, and he met Kedar in his room. As he sang devotional songs, he observed Kedar's overflowing emotion. Later, the master initiated a brief debate between Narendra and Kedar. Kedar was very good at repartee, and he sometimes used sarcasm to point out an opponent's poor logic. On another occasion, the master was charmed when Kedar used a particular statement to silence his opponent. If anyone later asked that question of the master, he responded with Kedar's answer. Kedar's opponent had asked this question.
What is this? Sri Ramakrishna is like no person. What does that mean? Means is so pure, Shuddha Sattvic Bhagavati Tanu. So Sri Ramakrishna, we understand Sri Ramakrishna when he interacted with devotees. So he would not say something in his own name. Rather, he would quote somebody else. Like, I learned this from that. He would give full credit to them. and not giving author as author of that statement to himself. So this way we find lack of egotism in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. So that's why he would quote Kedarnath. And he also would quote many like monks I learned from here or there. So it shows that Sri Ramakrishna was free of egotism. Yes, go ahead.
Kedar's opponent had asked this question: if God is truly compassionate, why did he create so much pain and suffering, injustice and oppression? Why from time to time do thousands of people suffer from poor harvests and die of starvation during famines? Kedar answered, well, I wasn't invited to the meeting on the day when God, although he is merciful, decided to keep pain, suffering, unnatural death, and so on in his creation. So how can I tell you the reason? However, on that day, Narendra's sharp reasoning silenced Kedar in front of everybody.
Today we have learned that what Holy Mother said. So Holy Mother said that, everybody cannot be happy in this world. Then,
At the same time.
at the same time, yes. So she told a story. Sita requested Rama to make everyone happy and open the treasury to all. So Rama said, okay. And he granted that anybody can take anything from the treasury and let everyone enjoy. And by his divine Maya, so everybody was happy, nobody was working. But what happened? The roof was leaking. And when they searched, they could not find a workman. Because everybody was happy and nobody was working. Then Sita said, what will happen? We cannot. So she could understand that everyone cannot be happy at the same time. Rather, this imbalance is required in this creation so that everybody gets some job and they earn their livelihood. Yes. Now it is time. So we'll stop here. It is wonderful to meditate on the lives of Sri Ramakrishna and Narendranath, later Swami Vivekananda. So we'll say our prayers. Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dhrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayoh Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Jai Hind.
Pranam Maharaj.
Namaskar.
Pranam Maharaj.
Namaste.
Pranam Swami ji.
Namaste ji. Arora ji. Namaste. Hari Om.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you. Okay.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.